Welcome everybody back, or for the first time, to our traditional arts series from the Native American Studies Center at USC Lancaster. We want to thank the South Carolina Arts Commission for supporting these programs. We'll continue on Saturday, tomorrow, with Monty Branham, who will be demonstrating flute playing and drumming and talking about making flutes and drums. And then on Monday, we will close out at 5 o'clock with Becky Garris, who will be talking about her basket making, and I'm sure other Catawba traditions as well. But we're delighted to be joined today by Faye Greiner. Faye is a basket maker, a potter, Catawba elder, a former artist in residence here at USC Lancaster's Native American Studies Center. And we're delighted to have her with her. So we'll go ahead and start the program. Faye, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good. And I should mention, I'm Dr. Stephen Criswell, Director of Native American Studies, and I'm behind the camera today, and hopefully everybody can hear. Hey, let's start. Let's talk about what you're doing now, what you're working on here.
Well, I had started this at home, or I wouldn't be this far up, but I'm making a market basket, and I'm going to decorate it with some reed that's been dyed with a, it's variegated, and it makes a beautiful basket. It's the same colors as the handle is. I will wrap this handle at home, and so I started the basket at home. But when this basket is through, I have made quite a few of these, as a matter of fact. And they are, a lot of people really like them. So I know if I make them, I'm going to sell them. So, but I do enjoy teaching baskets. I enjoyed my stay here when I was here 5 years ago.
It's 5 years, yeah.
Yes, 5 years ago next month. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot, met a lot of nice people, which I'm still friends with. I have friends that I met here from up in the mountains of Michigan, right on the Canadian border.
Oh, okay.
The Campbells.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they call me. And they come by and see me, even at the senior building.
Oh, okay.
So it's really nice, to meet people and make friends.
You met them here?
I met them here. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they'll call and they'll say, we're coming down, so we're going to be by the seniors. I walked into the seniors one day and they were sitting there. Vivian said, Faye, you have company. And I said, look it up. And I said, oh my gosh, it was really good. They had called me back when they had the big snowstorm up there in the wintertime and said there was so much snow on their storage shed. He said they have to get up there and knock it off so it don't make the shed collapse.
Oh, goodness.
So, but anyway, and I did teach one of the teachers down here to do a basket. I taught Chris.
Oh, okay, Chris Judge.
Yeah, and I have a picture of him in my album that I kept when I was down here, and he made a nice size market basket.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So.
And when you were here, you also worked with another employee at the time.
Oh yeah, well after my artist in residence was over here, well I got a fellowship grant from the Arts Council, and I taught Becky Garris. And
join us on
boy, that was a hard student, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I had to crack the old whip, She'd say, can I take it home with me? I said, nope, you can't take it home with you and work on it.
So this basket you're working on, you said you started it at home.
I started this at home.
How long does a basket like this take?
Well, probably, I could probably finish this in one day if I just started and worked on this basket, but I'd wrapped this rim probably a couple of weeks ago because I would sit and watch TV and be doing this. I'll be watching TV and making an egg basket, Yeah. So, but this basket here would probably take me about a day and a half. Okay. So, but because you have to make sure though these are called your ribs of your basket. These that are standing up. You've got to make sure that the ribs of your basket are standing up straight. And that way your basket will be straight when you get through. And so I try to measure when I am making my basket, I take and I measure from here to here. And I'll take and cut a piece of reed, but I make sure it's this as wide as from here to here.
Right.
Then I make sure this is the same, and then I measure this and make sure it's the same. Then I do that to make sure that my basket is the same, you know, all the way around.
Right.
So that way, it comes out pretty straight. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you get in a hurry, you know, and you rush, and they don't.
What do you use, or question, what do you use to dye the colored strips?
Well, I use dye, but you can use, Becky and I stain some with walnuts, black walnuts. And what you do is you take your black walnuts after they dry, you put them in a bucket and you let them soak for a while. Then you take your reed and you put it in there, and you have to leave it in there for a while. Yeah. But you want to put a clothespin on your nose because that black walnuts can really smell. Becky can tell you that it really smells bad. But it's a pretty dye when you get through making it. Oh yeah, you got to be sure and wear gloves. But I use grit dye, and I have an old method that I remember what we used to do when I was little. Yeah. With dyeing eggs, Easter eggs. Yeah. We always put a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of salt in our dye. And our eggs, the dye didn't run on our eggs, or it didn't stay on your hands. So that's what I do when I dye it. And I put it in hot water and I let it stay for a little while. And then I'll take it out and I'll rinse it real good until the water runs clear. Yeah. Then I take it and I hang it on a hook on my back porch and let it dry, because they say because Margaret was going to hang hers on the clothesline. And she said, Faye, I just found out I can't hang that on the clothesline out in the sun. I said, well, lay it on your porch. Just lay it on your porch and let it dry. She said, well, that's an idea. So, but I've always laid mine out like that, you know, hang it on the porch, on the clothesline, and you know, but it always seems to turn out, you know, okay. So, but Margaret Blue is a very dear friend of mine. Her husband was the assistant chief at one time, and he's passed away, but she's a good friend of mine, and she's not Catawba. And he came to me before he passed away and said to me, Margaret wants to learn how to make baskets. So I told him, I said, bring her to the center, the senior center, or have her come to the senior center and I'll teach her. So I taught her, and she's making beautiful baskets. I mean, she gets a pattern out and she said, I'm gonna make this. She's got one started now. I went over and looked at the pattern the other day and I just thought to myself, I'm not gonna touch that one. Because where a lot of people read patterns, I do what I see. So I don't know, that's the way I learned everything, sewing and everything, because my daughter was going to learn to sew, and I told her, I said, well, read your pattern good, and if you can't do it, then I'll see if I can help you. But I'm not going to promise you.
Well, so you mentioned teaching basket making or teaching our archaeologist here, Chris Judge, to make a basket. Your friend Margaret, who's all these are non-Catawbas. Something that's different, I think, about Catawba basket making that's different from pottery making. Like you don't teach.
No, we do not teach our pottery making to anybody but our tribal members. So,
but the basket making,
yeah, because I learned it from when I went to boarding school in Cherokee, North Carolina. I was 14 or 15 years old when I went up there. Me and Joanne and
your sister,
my sister Joanne, and 3 other Native American ladies, 3 sisters. And 2 of those sisters are dead now. One just died and they buried her last week.
Were these all Catawba?
Yeah,
So the five of you.
Roberta Sanders Honeycutt, she just died. And her sister died probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And Mojave's the only one that's,
Right.
And she and I is the one that, did things, and we still do. We still do things
Well,
together.
let's back up to that a little bit. So the five of you in your early teens went to the boarding school in Cherokee. And, it's an interesting thing because, the boarding schools generally have it was such a horrible experience for so many Native people. But I think you've told me before that you.
We had a good school. I guess that's what I would call it, a good school. They had one big hall, a big house, 2-story house that was for the ladies. Then they had one up the hill on the mountain for the guys, for the boys. But and there was Native Americans that came from all over because I went to school with Choctaws, Seminoles, and
Yeah.
So, but that's where I learned to do my basket making.
Were your teachers there Cherokee?
They were Cherokee.
And so you took a class?
Yeah, they taught it in the school there. Yeah, they taught basket making. They got their pottery skills from the Catawbas.
Right. So it's only fair that the basket making comes back from.
But I have relatives that are Cherokee.
Yeah.
There's George's up there. My dad went to boarding school up there. Let me tell you a good one though.
Yeah.
My grandmother went to school with Jim Thorpe.
Really? Really?
Yeah. When she went to Carlisle.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Who else went to Carlisle when she went? There was somebody else. I don't forget who it was now, but I know my grandmother went.
Yeah.
And somebody asked her one time, that was, when she was a young girl, and they asked her, said, well, what did you think of Jim Thorpe? And she said, he was okay.
He was all American.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was Joe Sanders, but I think Joe went after that.
It might have been, but that was, a long ways from home.
Yeah.
So
Cherokee wasn't so.
No, and it was fun. And I would take Nola Campbell up there.
Okay.
And because Nola was related, and I was home home visiting from Michigan. And so I said, let's go to Cherokee. And so I take her, put her in the car, and we'd go up the road, and we'd get up there and we'd just go everywhere. And she said to me, and I don't know where she came up with this, but she wanted to call everybody Sugar Booger. And she said to me, Sugar Booger, said, you know where you're going? Said, you're not going to get us lost now, are you? And I just took her all over the mountain. Because on Sundays at the boarding school, the girls had to get out and walk. Every Sunday after church, you put on your winter coat, your gloves, your hat, and you went for a walk. I don't know how many miles we walked, but we walked. So, but we enjoyed it. Worked in the bakery and making bread and stuff like that. It was really, to me, it was a good thing. I loved it.
And you had just your regular lessons, English, math.
Oh yeah, you had your regular classes, because I can remember biology, dissecting a frog.
Oh, yeah.
But but Joanne took what did she didn't take basket classes. I don't forget what she told me she took now.
When you were taking the basket class, were you at all aware of the basket making among the Catawbas and the history?
No, I wasn't. I was just a young girl, so I didn't know anything about the basket making in the Catawbas. But I have a letter that was given to me, and it's in some of my paperwork, and I'm going to get it, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to give it to Brooke, because anything that I find that I feel like, she might be, I'll give it to her. I went through a bunch of my papers and gave her a lot of clippings that I had.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, I brought these to you because, you're doing, history on the Catawbas, and I said, you might be interested. So,
What was in the letter?
oh, it was things that Bloomer wrote and put in the Herald, and they were, but the letter is one of Nelson Blue's daughters. I think it was Mamie Blue. I'm not sure which one it was right offhand, but somebody, and can't remember the man's name, but he had sent her a letter, and evidently she had been getting him baskets from somewhere, from somebody, and he was wanting baskets, and she had wrote him a letter and said, I found you a basket, but somebody has a couple more, but they're not going to sell them.
And these are among Catawbas? These were Catawbas?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did?
No, I don't know what these were Catawba baskets, but she was getting baskets from somebody from them, because the Catawbas weren't making baskets then.
Yeah, so when, do you have a sense of when basket making died out among the Catawbas?
But they told me it was well over 100 years ago. That's what I've heard, it's well over 100 years ago.
There's can't remember if it's in Frank Speck's book, or whether it was somebody, Mojave or one of the elders told me in an interview, but I recall someone talking about gathering clay and putting it in a basket. So when they would go to get the clay from the
I know, but I don't know. Yeah, because there's a picture of my grandmother holding a basket, and it's probably down here on.
It's around here somewhere.
Yeah, it is. And she's got a basket sitting beside her, with clay. But anyway, don't you take my big basket back there. It's your basket now, but don't take it and put no clay in it.
let me get a shot of that big basket there. Yeah, we won't put clay in there. Well, so in your own experience, and you learned to make baskets in boarding school, but you're also a potter. Were you making pottery when you were a teenager, or did that come later?
No, I didn't make pottery until 1972, 73, and I came home from Michigan. I was living in Michigan, and I came home from Michigan, and Isabel George was married to Ephraim George, which was one of my dad's half brothers or something. I don't know how they were related. I have to look at all that. But I can do my mom's genealogy, but I can't keep up with my dad's. But anyway, came home, and I went to Aunt Isabel's house, and Martin Harris was there. Martin Harris was a great pottery maker. And I went there, and they were making pottery, and I hadn't made any. And Martin says to me, Martin was such a good friend of mine. And he said to me, I bet you can't make no pots. I said, I bet you I can. He said, I bet you can't make a big one. So I proceeded to make a pot, and I made a nice sized pot, and it turned out really pretty. I fired it, and my daughter's got it now.
Yeah.
And it was probably about this big around and about that deep, and it had scallops around the, when you take your finger and you flute it out, and around the edges. And I put it in the fair up in York County Fair when it used to come up to Rock Hill. I put it in there and won first prize. I won a blue ribbon. So
on a dare.
Yeah, on a dare. So ever since then, I've made pottery, and my mother surprised me, because my mother was not one to tell you, oh, you do beautiful work. Because I asked her when I came home, when I retired from my job up there where I worked for the transit authority up there. And I came home and I was making pottery, and I said to my mother, I'd make something, I'd say to her, I said, Mom, I said, how does that look? And she looked at it and she said, Oh, it's okay. She said, it's okay. She said, but why don't you take it and let Nola look at it?
Ooh.
Because I would go and I would sit with Nola.
Right.
And I would go and I spent a lot of time with Earl,
Yeah.
a lot of time. Learned a lot from Earl. And so Mama was jealous of Nola and I didn't know it. So she'd come to my
And
house.
Nola Campbell was a potter as well.
Mhm, a great potter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And, but if you didn't do it just the way Nola wanted you to do it, she'd take it away from you and do it herself. And so that's no way to teach. You got to let them do it. And so, because Della, her daughter, they got a grant and she taught her. And I said, well, it should have been Mama teaching Della and Nola teaching Joanne instead of Mama teaching
Your
Joanne.
sister Joanne, yeah.
But they did it just the opposite. But anyway, I learned a lot from Nola and a lot from Earl too. So Earl and his brother in Flint, and I would go to the woods, and you know when they stopped us from getting clay over at Nesbitt's Farms, well, we went to Bowaters. And they gave us permits and signed them that we had the privilege of digging clay on their property. The only thing they asked us to do was to fill the hole back in. And, you know, so nobody would step in it or no animal would fall in it and couldn't get out. So that's what we do, me and Earl and Flint. And we'd go dig clay, we'd go cut wood, and I took Earl, when we were out of clay, I took Earl to Asheville.
Mhm.
You know, they have a clay place up there, factory where they sell clay.
Yeah.
So he wanted clay. So I said, Earl, I will take you to the mountains and so you can get you some clay. He said, okay. So we got up early one morning and left and went to the mountains. While we were up there, we bought his wife a bushel of apples. And so we got back home that night about 5 or 6 o'clock of that evening. And Viola told us, she has a twin named Riola, that's why I said Riola. But Viola said to us, Nola called us while you were gone. Called me while you were gone. He wanted to know where you were at. About Earl. I said, where's Earl at? Said, oh, he went to the mountains with Faye. Said, Nola says, Viola, I wouldn't let Earl go to the mountains with Faye by himself. We laughed at them about that. Viola said, well, if I'd have thought about it, I'd told them y'all weren't coming back till tomorrow. But we had some good times, I'll tell you. But I caught my mom, though. We were at the cultural center one day, and you know that as you come from the store and you walk down into the room with the fireplace, well, Mama was in there and she was talking to some people, and she didn't know that I had walked up behind her. She had her back turned. And she said, well, they had asked her something about me. And she said, well, she come home and said, it makes me mad because she makes better pottery than I do. And I just stood there and looked at her. She didn't even know I was there, but she wouldn't tell me that.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Well, we should mention your mom was Evelyn George, who was, I believe, awarded the state Heritage Award for her work. And was an excellent potter and begat a number of fine artists, and they passed that on even to you mentioned Brooke, her niece, Brooke Bauer, who formerly co-director Native American Studies here. So when you were little, were you around your mom when she was making pottery?
I don't. My mom didn't make pottery when she was real young, because my mom worked.
Right.
Back then, you know, the women worked outside of the home by that time. They could get a job. When my grandmother was little is when you had to make the pottery and take it and go up and sit in front of the winter gates and sell the pottery to help feed your family.
Yeah.
And so Mama didn't do pottery then. She was too young. But when she got older and she started doing her pottery, it was when she retired from her job.
Where did she work?
She worked in a curtain factory up in, she retired from them up in Matthews.
Oh, okay.
Mojave worked up there too, and I think Blanche did. There was a bunch of them worked up there. But yeah, Becky and I go a long way back. Her daddy, when you saw those pictures of us when we went to Cherokee when I was just a little.
Yeah.
Well, her daddy met us when we were up there, and
That's in Chumford in Ohio.
yeah, we were in Ohio.
Oh,
in
okay.
Ohio,
Yeah.
yeah. We'd go every summer. So he fell in love with Elizabeth Plyler, and he came back to Rock Hill following Elizabeth.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth didn't want nothing to do with him, I guess, and he fell in love with Becky's mama. So
It worked out.
it did. It really did, because we had Becky.
Always call her Nana, almost mama.
Yeah,
That's fun.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's just funny, all the stories. Have you heard the one about the man that used to go across the river and play the fiddle?
No, tell me that.
Have you, Becky?
Yeah, the one about,
Tom Stevens?
yeah, where Charlie Daniels wrote that song about.
Yeah.
Well, tell us that.
He used to go across the river and play the fiddle for some people. They had dances, and he'd go over there and, visit and fiddle, and probably visiting some woman, from what I understand. But anyway, he went over there one time, and the ferry was down there at Tom Stevens, road where the cultural center is. And he would go down that way. The ferry, well, where they came across the river was there. And so he went out one night, and he went across the river and came back. And when he came back, they had a gate up, which was there all the time. And he had to open the gate to get back in onto the reservation. Well, on the reservation, I guess, I don't know, but said he opened that gate up. Said there sat a little man up on that fence. And said that little man took his fiddle away from him. And this is now what I was told. Said he played a tune. And then this Tom Stevens, that was his name. He went home, and shortly after that, he had gone across the river, and said he came back, and he froze to death. They found him. Yeah, said he had come home, and said they found him at his house, dead. But they said he was over 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, but now Gilbert told that.
Chief Blue,
Yeah, Gilbert Blue, he was our chief, and he was he's really still missed. I really thought a lot of Gilbert.
and a fine guitar player.
Oh, yeah, he loved his music. Loved his music.
Well, we're getting a couple of comments here. Kimberly McHugh says that the fluted bowl is so beautiful. So I'm guessing she's.
Is she on there?
She barely is on here.
That's my daughter.
Oh, that's your daughter.
Uh-huh.
Oh, all right. And then a question here: where do you get your basket making supplies? And are there basket making classes being taught now?
Okay, I get my basket making supplies from down in Pageland now. I did get them from up in Ohio, but since I found, a place closer to home, I get them sometimes I drive down. The lady that I get my basket supplies from, I met about 8 years ago. Me and Brooke went down there, and we came back by the university and stopped.
Yeah,
And that's when you were packing everything up.
move over here.
Mhm.
Oh, that was wild.
And, or around that time anyway, and, so, but yeah, I go down there, if I call her in the morning, she opens at 8 o'clock.
So she has a shop in Fayetteville?
Yeah, in the basement of her home,
Oh, okay.
and, she's a great basket maker, a great basket maker. I take classes from her.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, still, I go down there, I'll call her, I say, Mama, can I come down? I need some, a lesson. She said, okay, come on down. I need a refresher course. Okay, come on down. I'll be available this time. So I'll go down. She and I have become great friends.
Does she teach classes for?
She did at the senior center.
Oh, okay.
She taught, she'd come, we'd have her come and pay her, you know, and out of her activity fund money. And she'd bring all the supplies, and she was great. Or is great, but her mother just passed away. I feel so bad for her. Her mother was a wonderful woman. So I had met her, and she was my age. Got along, we met,
Oh, no, go ahead.
we met here in Lancaster one day for lunch. Because they would come from Pageland and I would come from Rock Hill.
Oh, okay. Nice middle ground.
So, but yeah, I call and talk to Mona all the time. I call to check on her because of her mother.
So you taught individuals. Have you taught classes?
Oh yeah, I've taught classes in Fort Lawn. I've taught classes there at the center because I have had people that, you know, I used the senior center and did classes. So, but most of the people that I've taught are Native American people, are people, you know, we have a few people that aren't. And so I include them, you know.
Yeah, so that, yeah, as we talked about, you'll teach non-native folks basket making because it doesn't have the same history, I guess, the same significance.
Yeah, because I teach at the cultural center, and we'd have sometimes 12 people there. There'd be Winona and some of the Catawba, you know, people there that are tribal members, and so we would just have a good time. But I did that all summer one year.
Just taught basket making? Just taught basket making all summer?
No, taught classes, a different class. We did a fish basket, and we did, I taught Rue to make baskets. And he is a great, I mean, he's good.
Yeah. And he worked with your friend.
Oh, I
Nancy,
know.
right?
He worked with my buddy, Nancy.
Right, so Nancy Basket, who, God bless her, is making art with kudzu. And I think, yeah.
Do you know that she and I did a piece together? I did a piece of pottery, and it was about the round bowl, and I took and measured all the way around the rim of that bowl, and there should be one on this plate here somewhere. And but no, I can't get that down in there. I cut it too short.
And what is that? What are you doing now? Are you?
I am doing my tucking the tops of my basket in so that I can put my rim on it.
Okay.
So you asked me how long it takes me to make a basket. Yes. So this is how long it takes me.
Well, since you're a basket maker and a potter, if you decide you want to make something, how do you decide which medium? How do you choose how to spin your?
Well, you know, it's easy. Making pottery is hard.
Yeah.
because you have got to so dig your clay, then you've got to soak it, and strain it through wire to make sure that it has no, impurities in there, like little pieces of gravel and all that stuff. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Speaking of pottery and basket making.
Mhm.
So now these are two pieces that you made with Nancy Bassett.
Nancy Basket. I do the
The
bottom,
base of it.
I do the base, and she does the pine needles. And we've been doing this since 1992, shortly after I moved back here from Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. How did you meet Nancy?
At a craft show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she came to the reservation to teach pine needles. I got her to come and teach pine needles baskets, for us. And so it's just, something that we do.
Yeah, well, it's unique. I mean, it's two art forms. It's people from two different backgrounds. The natural resources. I mean, these are all locally. I would imagine Nancy's pine needles and kudzu are locally sourced as well.
She goes down to Mona's and get long needle pines,
okay.
because it's a place down there where Mona lives, and there is cuckoos of them. And I went to one of her classes, and I came in and I had some pine needles. They were this long.
Oh.
And Mona Nancy wanted to know, you were there. She said, look at them pine needles. She said, where in the world did you get pine needles like that? I told her.
Down there sometimes like
She does.
1 inch long.
Oh.
She goes down there. Mona's not home. She just goes in there and picks pine needles. Mona don't care. She said, no. She said, I don't care.
People appreciate that. Your daughter asks, do you need to soak the pine needle baskets like you do the traditional baskets?
She said, what?
Do you need to soak the pine needle baskets?
You need to soak the pine needles. Yes, you do. You need to soak
Soften them up.
Yeah, to soften them up. You sure do. So I met my daughter. She lives in Michigan, and I met my daughter in Tennessee here a few summers ago. I think 3 summers ago, and her daughter, my granddaughter, and we met at her uncle's house in Townsend, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And she brought clay that I had given to her and my granddaughter. She brought her clay with her from Michigan, and it was all ready to make pottery with, because I told her to soak it before they came. And I taught her and my granddaughter to make baskets down there in a week. We had a good time. He lived right on the river, and we had a great time.
But do you have to soak the basket after you make it?
The basket?
Yeah.
That?
Yeah. Well, so your daughter asks, after the basket has been made, do you soak it?
No, you don't have to soak your baskets after it's been made. You soak it before it's been made, because it makes your reed pliable. And you have to soak it to be able to bend it like I'm bending it now.
And the same with the pine needles, they don't break.
Pine needles will, they'll break. Your pine needles have to be soaked also. Now Becky says some of hers she don't even wait for them to get dry.
And I noticed as you go along, you've got your high-tech spray bottle there.
Because I have to, because I have to, and see, I have this, and I have to stick it down sometimes down in between these little tiny screwdriver.
Oh, okay.
And I have to stick it down in these to get it to go in there, so that, I can tuck it down.
I forgot to ask, what is the wood you're using on this?
Oh, this is bamboo.
Okay. So would the traditional material be
Split?
or
No,
split
the
oak?
traditional would be split white oak.
White oak.
Mm-hmm. Because I went over to visit a gentleman over in almost to Clemson.
Mhm.
And he made split white oak baskets. And we didn't know, but before we went, that he was real sick. He was bedridden, and his sister was there. And we got to go in and see him, you know, but not very long. And I asked her if he had a basket for sale, and she got a basket. And it was like a clothes basket, you know, it was kind of rounded. It's sheer, I believe.
Oh, really large. It's a very large.
Yeah, I think it's sheer.
Yeah, I think it is.
And I think his last name was Brown, if I'm not mistaken. But we did, and I got that basket for $20.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the Gail McKinley is a white oak basket maker who lives over in that part of the state.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she's as far as I know, has been making white oak baskets for years and years. I think she's one of these folks who sort of later in life discovered her native heritage as well. So there might be something in her family that's from that Cherokee.
Well, my daughter's on vacation right now. She's a school teacher. She's on vacation. She lives in Michigan, but she's gone up about 3 hours drive from where she lives. Her and a few of her friends are crafting up there and teaching school too.
Not really vacation.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's her.
Working vacation.
Well, it's a working because she has to teach 3 hours in the morning, and then she, you know, crafts in the afternoon. Ladies that she's been quilting with. My grandmother taught her to quilt.
Yeah.
She's been making quilts with them for about 20 years.
So let's talk about selling your baskets. So a basket like this, when it's done, when this basket is done, if you wanted to sell it, what would be the price of a basket?
Well, I don't put outrageous prices on my basket. Now, this basket I sold, the other two. You see, this piece of reed has split on me, and I'm trying to get it down into where I'm tucking it. Okay, it's going now. I get $50 for them.
Okay.
So, you know.
Is it generally smaller baskets, less money, or does it have more to do with
No, the little egg baskets, I think I sell them for $35. And they're a little bit bigger than this little piece of pottery here, so. But I don't try to. Somebody says, oh, you could get more than that from them. I said, but, you know, I don't want to rob people. As long as I get something out of it, you know, I'm happy.
And if people want to buy your baskets,
Yeah, I get orders.
How do you take those? Do you
Well,
just call you up, or?
some people do. Yeah, when I was down here, I had a lot of orders.
Yeah.
Because I have a book, and I don't have it with me,
Sorry.
but it's at my house.
Yeah.
And I have when the day I started, and I think Brittany asked me.
Oh, okay.
I started every day, I'd write down what I started to make, what I finished, and when I left that day, I put down there what I sold. And so when I left here, I had because Brittany came and she said, Faye, she said, we're doing applying for another grant. And she said, since your artist and resident down here was so successful, we'd like for you to tell us what you did and how good you did. I said, well, Brittany, I got it all wrote down. She said, you do? She said, who told you to do that? I said, nobody. I said, I just did it. I said, I don't know. I just did it.
So you ended up with almost a catalog.
Huh?
You end up with almost a catalog of your work. So can people go through that and say, oh, I like this kind of basket. Can you make me one of those? Or?
Well, yeah, I've got pictures, you know, Chris took bukus of pictures, and I've got a folder full of pictures. Yeah, they could go through my book and say, could you make me that? Could you make me this, you know? And I can.
And I know you've done things with the colors. You've made blue and yellow, blue and gold for USC Lancaster. You did
Oh, yeah.
black and
Yeah,
red.
I have. I got these little egg baskets.
Yeah.
And I made them, the God's Eye is the color of, say for instance, if I'm gonna make a gamecock, I make the black for the one where I'd make the God's Eye right here.
Right.
It would go,
Now explain the God's Eye. That's the
well,
weave pattern.
I don't, well, you have to take a piece of reed and you do it, it's like this, and you have to take your reed and you wrap it around and it makes like a little oval like this coming back and forth, you know? And I don't have one. I had one down here the other day and I didn't bring it back. But anyway,
And so
And
that's where the color goes?
yeah, that's where I put my color. So I'd make that black and then I'd weave the rest of the basket in, or make it red and make the rest of the basket black. So.
And your equal opportunity, you'll do Clemson or USC.
I make Clemson, I make the North Carolina Tar Heels, and so, but yeah, I try to be fair.
We had those at our last Christmas festival. I remember those. At our last Christmas festival, I remember because you were telling me about them, because you had candy in there.
Yeah, yeah, but that was, I think the last time we were down here.
Probably so, yeah. I mean, as I mentioned yesterday, we're hoping that we'll have another sale around the holidays.
Well, that's what Cindy and I were talking about. And I said, well, Brittany and I were talking, and Brittany said, hopefully, you know, but, you know, the virus is picking back up.
Yeah.
That's sad because, you know, I said, people aren't getting their shots.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have enough people with enough shots that we can all get together.
Oh, I know. So, because I have mine.
Well, and I will say, I have, for a few years now, bought baskets as gifts, and it's a.
Oh, I know you have.
It's a unique gift. You know, you can send it off to friends in other parts of the country.
See, there's mine.
There you go.
I've been vaccinated.
Public service announcement.
Yep.
Get your shot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we won't have Facebook comments about conspiracies and so forth. But yeah, I've always gotten, you know, folks I've sent these to, they've been very grateful and you know, recognize this is a unique art form. In academics, you know, there's an old joke about, you know, students taking basket making like as if it's a simple course, you know, that you major in underwater basket weaving or whatever. It might be. And I always bristle at that because I know that basket making, basket weaving it's not easy and it's not simple.
No, if you really don't know what you're doing, it isn't. Because I'm trimming off my extra here. See, there's certain ones of these. The ones on the outside are the ones that you tuck under. You turn them to the inside and tuck them under to hold your rim together. And now I'm cutting these off. It might look like a waste of reed, but I save them. And people think I'm a hoarder or something, but I save them and I use them when I burn my pottery.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-use.
So they're good for starting a fire, you know, when you're burning pots.
Well, just watching you do this and knowing that you're an expert in this and you've been doing this for a while, but even with your skill, you had that reed split a minute ago. There's always something that could go wrong. So it's a lot more complicated, and I think it requires a lot more mental and physical effort. I think people recognize it. But the product is just lovely. They're lovely baskets. We had a few comments here. Let's see. One of the viewers is wanting to know if they can get your contact information. Should we have them just contact us here at the center? And
Well, that's up to y'all. Let's, you know, they can. I'm in the book. My phone number's in the book.
do they still make a book?
Yeah. Well, it's listed, my phone number's listed.
Oh, it's very good.
Tell them to call the center, Becky.
The cultural center, you go through there.
Well,
We'll get you in.
I don't care about my phone number being given out to these people, but, I don't know whether you want to put it out there or not.
Well, we'll ask them to get in touch with us, and then we'll send them
Oh,
your
okay.
number.
Now, see, this is
Screen
the, not finished,
Right.
but, this is the, where I would take one of these, and I didn't know that I would get this far, so I'm not going to, and see, I'll take one of these and pin it like this with my clothespins. And this is what clothespins are used for nowadays. They're not used for hanging clothes.
Clothes so much. Or
So,
to seal up your potato chips.
yeah, so, but anyway, I take this and I put one on the inside and one on the outside. Now this reed has a wrong side and a right side. It has a smooth side and it has a rough side. And you put your rough side to the side of this and you go all the way around. And I carry a little bag with me and it's full of all kinds of junk. Some of these clothespins are real old and some of them aren't. But see, what I'll do now is I'll put one on the inside and then I have some seagrass. And it's probably about big as a pencil. And I lay that seagrass down in between these two pieces. There'll be one on the inside here and I lay my seagrass down in between right here, this little hollow place here. I didn't bring any seagrass because I didn't think I'd get this far. But you put your seagrass down in that to cover up all of this and make your basket look pretty.
Now, is that like the sweetgrass?
Yeah,
they use down in Charleston?
Yeah, it's similar to that, but it's woven.
Okay.
It's woven. It comes in a big long string. Becky can show you what it is there. She's got it.
A little further. There we go.
So, yeah, because I made those.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Remember when I was down here?
I did.
Mhm.
Those are cool.
But
Yeah.
Anyway, then I do that. But I'm going to show you something else that I'm going to do here with this.
While you're grabbing it, let's see. Who operated the boarding school you attended in North Carolina when you were a teenager?
The Catawba, the Cherokees operated, the tribal government, I'm sure.
There's Pam Rumley says the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs has
Yeah.
had a school in the Qualla boundary for many years. She taught art there from 75 to 81.
Oh, somebody from up there?
Yeah, Pam Rumley is joining us today.
Miss White was our, over the boarding school when I was going to school up there.
Okay. And yeah, we've got a request for a basket. Someone's wanting to send you money electronically. We'll take care of that at the end here. Let's see. Looks like wood splits. Are those wood splits you're using? You said it was bamboo.
It's split bamboo.
Split bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Faye's working with bamboo. Okay. So
Now, I'm going to show you, I am going to show you how, I'm going to stand up, get some of my stuff out of the way, so when I stand up, I don't trip over it. Okay. Oh, that's got a little Catawba village in it. I drew a village in it.
Oh, inside.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I thought you were going to tell me we had dogs.
No, I did. I drew a little teepee and there's a little teepee there and little stars and the moon.
On the bottom, you actually have an inscription.
You can hold it.
And a little stream running.
You've got the sides and first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then That's what it says on the bottom of my ID.
Does it have a date on it?
It should have.
93.
Yeah, 93.
They call it Two Nations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then this one's
The coming together of two
2014.
nations.
This one's from 2014.
14.
Okay, now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this right here and I'm going to put it behind I can't get it down under there. Okay, there it goes. And I'm going to bring it up to up here. This is just so you can get a good, you can see what I'm doing. I'll turn it over and show you just in a second.
Okay.
I'm trying to see where it's coming through here. Got real quiet.
Well, we're all concentrating on it. So you're weaving in
I am,
additional color.
yeah, I usually have, and I usually have them with me, but I don't. I didn't bring them. I was using them at home and left them out. A little pair of needle nose. Oh, it's coming through. It's coming through.
There we go. Got your hand on that?
Mm-mm, it's not sharp.
It's like a paper.
Okay, you
So,
see.
oh, okay.
Now let me do another one. And then you'll.
Yeah, all of your baskets have some.
No,
flair to
not
them,
all
seems
of
like.
them, because I learned a lot of this stuff from Mona down in
Oh,
Pageland.
yeah.
Because she came up and taught us a basket, and it's called a cat's head basket, and that thing was beautiful. And so, but I learn a lot from her. She's such a smart lady.
I really like the pieces.
Yeah, but it's not just one color.
Color.
Mm-mm.
So do you just sit the different, that's very nice. You just sit
Mhm.
the different ends and
Yeah.
how do you do this? How do you dye?
I'm going to teach Jackie Bagley's dad to do this. I told her he's getting, he's not well. He's retired and he's a home builder.
Ah.
And I told her the other day, I said, Jackie, I took him that book and he did a chair. And I told her, I said, Jackie, I'm going, and I said, I'm teaching your dad to make baskets rather. I was looking at that bowl. And she said, oh, Faye, she said, I said, I know he can do it. I said, because he did that chair.
Yep.
And she said, well, that'll give him something to do, you know. Because he helped me a lot whenever I was making cradles. He'd make the little things that you put under them, you know, the little
Rocker.
Yeah, he'd make those for me, and you know, her mother and I have always been real close. Her mother was Buck's,
Buck George.
but Jackie's mother was Buck George's niece.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this goes here.
Buck George, the Catawba.
Yep, Clemson.
Clemson
Yep,
football
standout.
Standout.
Yeah.
Spent one season with the Washington team.
Yeah.
I believe he's on the Sports Hall of Fame. I think it's in the mall in Whitefield. There's a wall that has.
His pictures, yeah, his picture is out there. Yeah, because Joanne was talking about that the other day that she saw it. Okay, now you can get a good look at what that side looks like.
There we go. There it is. Very nice. So you said you made cradles.
I made baby cradles. You have a cradle, one of our first cradles that I taught down here that my daughter-in-law's sister made. And she brought it and gave it back to me while I was artist. No, I already completed it, or anyway. But I told her, I said, I don't have room for it at my house. And I said, do you mind if I donate it to the, and she said, no. So I called her and I told her, I said, Marilyn, your basket's on display. I said, your cradle's on display. And she cried.
Did you teach her?
Yeah, I taught her at the cultural center.
Right. Well, so the cradle's good size. What's the biggest basket you made?
The biggest basket is the Moses baby cradle.
Okay.
And I should have brought my book. But anyway, it's probably about this long, and it's about 45 inches long and 30 something wide. I shipped one to Idaho to some missionaries that were here, and they were grown, they were seniors, and he was here on mission, and he did put a metal roof on my house for me. And so I tried to get him to let me pay him. He said, I can't do that because I'm on mission. And I said, well, you won't always be on mission. And they had grown children. And I said, well, I'll make your cradle. She said, we don't have any small grandbabies. Well, I shipped it. And she told me, she said, we've got a new baby that's going to be born, and it's going to be using this cradle. So
be careful of he's coming back on it. So that's a good size basket. It's big enough to float a baby down.
see, look now. See, when I come back with this, I will come down here and I'll bring it from here and come up like this up here, and or right here, and then I'll come back here. And, you know, if I want to, I'll put more decorations on it. But you don't have to. That's up to you.
We have a comment. Pam Rumney says, Faye, I'm surprised how hard you fold the material and it is not broken, you can soak it overnight.
No, you don't have to soak it overnight, just so long as you leave it in there and soak it for maybe 15 minutes or so. You don't have to, soak it overnight. It's really pliable. See, I soaked this this afternoon and put it in a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, and brought it with me. And I sprayed it a little bit, but it's not, it's okay. So.
Yeah, and then, so I guess the issue you had earlier with splitting.
Well, it will sometimes, you just have to be careful, And when it starts doing that, I'll just take and cut it, cut the end off of it. And then you have to make sure though that whenever you bend that right there, that it. I enjoy making baskets. I really do. I've taught my daughter-in-law to make baskets. She can sit and work on them too. I told her, I said, you need to start making, she was babysitting her sister's grandson. And I told her, I made one of these little baskets with the wire handle on it, the one I brought Brittany.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, can I have that? I said, no, but I'll have Vivian make you one. So.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about it. We'll have to do at some point, have you do a class here at the center for folks when we're back under normal operations. We'd love to have you come here and maybe teach a class for folks in Lancaster in this area as well, if you're interested.
Oh yeah, that'll be good. Oh, come on out from under there.
Is there a basic basket design, a simple one that you can teach?
Probably that doesn't take too long.
Yeah.
Well, you mean like how long?
I don't know. Can you teach somebody in a day?
Yeah, yeah. I can do a bread basket because you don't really need a handle. All you do is you cut you some reed and you cut 2 pieces that are real long and you bring them up and you wrap them over like that, and that makes your little handle on the end. And so it's even doesn't cost as much money. Thank you, Becky. And so it doesn't cost as much money, to do them.
Yeah. Okay. So the fancier, I guess, the harder, right? You're adding a handle to it, if you're adding color to it.
Yeah. Well, you could even put it colored in the bread basket, because you could do the something around the sides of it, or you could just put a row of this in the middle of it, and make it colorful. Because like I said, Margaret Blue, she just takes and makes all kinds of little napkin holder baskets. She made some a thing that you put napkins in it in one side and separate spaces on the other side for forks and knives and stuff. She's really, an amazing lady, I'll tell you.
Well, let's see if we have any further questions. Any questions?
We just had some wonderful comments from people saying that the basket you're working on is awesome and lovely, and that's what I'm seeing.
A lot of compliments.
A lot of compliments.
Well, thank you. Well, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And I think when you enjoy what you're doing, it's really not a job. It's really a pleasure to do, even though I was hard on Becky when I was teaching her.
Still.
She tell Chris, she's mean. She's been mean.
Well, I imagine the sense of accomplishment of making something, there were pieces of bamboo and such, and now there's a basket. I mean, you're creating something useful, something beautiful, right, evidence of your skill and your effort when you're done. It's a nice thing. You know, as a teacher, I don't generally get to hear success stories till years later.
That's what my daughter teaches, high
Yeah,
school.
High school, God bless you.
And that's, she's teaching summer school. She's still, you know, she teaches in the morning and she crafts in the afternoon with her friends. So she learned a lot of her skills from her grandma.
Yeah.
My grandma, her great grandma. So, and she gives her a credit for them too.
Yeah.
Now let me see. Oh, this one comes over here. No. But if people want to, you know, like a lady came in here when I was artist in residence, and she came in here one day. We had, might have been lunch and learn or something, and she said to me, or we had a craft show, I'm not sure. She came over and she said to me, "Can you make me a butt basket?" And I said, "You mean a fanny basket?" And she said, "Well," she said, "I was told a butt basket." I said, "Well, fanny basket, butt basket, whatever." I said, "But I can make you one." And I made her one.
I'm guessing these are the ones that has the kind of curved bottom on it, or double curved.
And she said, well, her daughter even sent me pictures. She got the basket. I think it went to Oregon.
Oh.
Now you see where I've stopped here? I'm going to show you you see where I stopped? Well, what I'll do is I'll take and I'll wet this little piece right here. I'll spray it with some water. And wet it. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to use a different side in it. Let me see. I think I'm gonna cut it right here, so I can get some of this red in it. But this is just an example of what you can do. And you see where that little bit piece right there is sticking out? That little piece right there, can you see it,
Yeah,
Stephen?
yeah.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to lift this up, the part that I've got there. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim it off. See, I cut that little tiny piece off. And I'm going to bring this piece up just to show you what you can do. Okay, now I have to measure. But I'm going to bring it up here and just show you an example of what you can do, of how to add on to this. You know, if you're going to be doing your basket, because this I'm going to take out and redo it later. I'm just showing you this so you can see what you can do with it.
Yes.
And see, now you can't even tell that you added that in.
No.
Because that's why I cut it, so it will kind of line up
Yes.
with that, you know, otherwise I wouldn't have ever done that, because then you could have seen that it was, you know, added onto right there. But then I'll bring this, you know, bring this around and come all the way around the basket. And so But it's really simple to me, but like I said, I've been doing it for a
Yeah.
long time.
It looks-
But if you really want to do it, you can do it. I know you can.
Now for the rim of that, will you
I'll wrap it with cane. I have some little tiny, it's 11/16 of an inch. And it wraps your handle on really, really good. See, I've got this almost all the way around the this basket.
Oh, we had a question about basket making to be hard on your hands.
Well, I guess I've gotten used to it, you know. For people that aren't used to it, you know.
I guess like everything though, if you do it enough.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, again, I'm open this up if anyone has any questions, either on Facebook or the Zoom link. If you want to post that in the chat or just turn on your microphone and ask them. We're fine with that. Your daughter says she likes your shirt. Where'd you get that shirt from?
My daughter made it. And do you know what? Do you know what this word right here means?
Tanake?
Becky? Yep.
Hello.
Mhm. But I wore shirts like this when I was down here, you know, teaching, and the kids would come in and I would tell them, you know, I said, now you see my shirt? And they would look at it, you know, school kids. And I said, and this means hello, Tanake. So I did learn. So, but yeah, this is really good now here, because I will finish this basket and then I'll stain it. You can stain it with natural dyes, or you can stain it. You can buy basket weaving stain.
Oh.
And so I buy basket weaving stain once in a while, you know, and sometimes I leave them natural.
Yes.
So, but I just wanted to show you the things that you can do with your reed if you really, really want to, you know.
Well, it's beautiful work, and you do such amazing work, with not just with the baskets, but with your pottery as well. We're really grateful for you sharing your talent with us today. I think we're coming up toward 3:30. So I do want to mention that tomorrow at 3, Monty Brandon will be joining us to talk about and do some flute playing and drumming, some traditional music from the Catawba Nation, and probably some pan-Indian music as well. Monty is also a potter. Does he make baskets?
No, he does.
All right, well, that's maybe his next thing, making baskets. But we're looking forward to that. And then the aforementioned Becky Garris, former student, or probably still in some ways student of Faye, will be with us on Monday as well.
Let's see, there's an egg basket.
Let's see. Apparently disconnected. Oh, no. Not bad. Here we go. Video's like it's funny. Well, there we go.
Can you get
There
it?
we go. There you got it. Yeah, there's the egg basket. Very nice. Well, if there aren't any further questions, again, thank you again, Faye, and thanks to everyone for logging in. We enjoy having you here, and hopefully you can stop by and see Faye here in the near future when we get things back opened up. And if you're interested in her baskets or purchasing one of her baskets, if you'll shoot us an email at the Native American Studies Center, you can send it directly to me, Dr. Stephen Criswell. You can find my email on the USC Lancaster website. Probably find the general Native American Studies Center email on there as well. But shoot us an email and we'll get you in touch with Faye, and if you would like one of these baskets of your own. And again, hopefully in December, she'll be here as part of our December Arts and Crafts sale, which we're really looking forward to. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you very much, Faye. Thanks everybody for participating, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. All right, thanks.
Thank you.